I've been testing the 2011 BMW X5M, the 2012 Cadillac Escalade ESV, the 2013 Mercedes-Benz G65 AMG, 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT, the 2014 Land Rover Range Rover Supercharged, the 2015 Land Rover Range Rover Sport SRV, the 2016 Bentley Bentayga, if that's how the fuck you say it, and the 2017 Jaguar F-Pace. So first up, we're going to do some drag races, and I might spend the first few minutes talking about this series since this is the first video. So in this series, we're gonna have the vehicles do a drag race and a circuit race, and you'll see which circuit that is later, and then another circuit that I deem to be applicable to the vehicles. Like these are SUVs, it'll be an off-road circuit. And don't get used to the quarter-mile and half-mile times, because that took absolutely too long. I probably spent 5-6 hours just editing that part, and I can't spend the time doing that. But so the Jag's finished there, and the Cadillac. The times over on the left, those will definitely stay in the future videos of this series. So I'm going to try and list off some figures. I'll just tell you the power to weight ratio, and this is so for the Cadillac it was 135 horsepower per ton, and the Jag had 189 horsepower per ton. So that's probably why it was so much quicker. And the Jeep has 182 horsepower per ton versus the Mercedes 212. So it seems like the Mercedes should have won that one, but it didn't. It's kind of odd. I mean, the Mercedes has a bunch more torque too. And so these are the two Range Rovers, as you can see, assuming you have eyes. And the newer one on the bottom right gained 40 horsepower and went on a diet, losing 500 pounds. And the one in the top right has a power to weight of 181 horsepower per ton, and the newer one is 213 horsepower per ton. So the BMW and the Bentley. The Bentley has the second most horsepower of any vehicle on this list, right after the Mercedes. Yet it's quite a bit faster, obviously, and it has less torque, and it does have a bigger, it weighs a lot less, so it has a power to weight ratio of 224 horsepower per ton, compared to the BMW's 203. So up next is the figure 8, which is the circuit I've chosen. It's just a good all-around circuit. You may notice over there on the left, the Land Rovers were recorded together, but they did not have the times right next to each other. That's just because I thought it would be much more interesting to compare the old Land Rover to the new one. So the BMW just slipped in between those there. And so on the circuit race, that first corner actually back there was actually, it's a really nice corner. I like it. You don't really have to slow down a lot. Kinda, I don't know, maybe test the downforce, like these vehicles have any of that. But you pretty much just slow down a bit going into it, then floor it throughout the rest. And those corners right there are a bit sweeping, so they're nice. And you'll notice this is only the second lap, and I did many more laps than this, but lost all the video footage to those, so I had to re-record it. Now I'm trying my best not to be boring. I hope I'm doing alright. But these last couple of corners right here, you see the Merc going through them. The Cadillac. Those last couple of corners, that last one, the one before, those were the most difficult for me. And about those cars, the Cadillac actually was surprisingly alright to drive, probably because it just had so little power, it wasn't very difficult. While the Merc had quite a bit of power, but couldn't go around corners, so it was not easy. It was not as easy. And now, of course, we're seeing the Jag and the Jeep. And the Jag was my favorite out of all 8 of them, even though it's obviously not the quickest in a straight line or around a circuit. But it was just, I mean, you'll see it getting a little bit, the tail coming out a bit, and it just really wanted to drift. It was really nice. The Jeep was surprisingly nice. You know, you think American, you think boat, which obviously isn't the case anymore with modern cars, but many people who don't drive them or know about them still think that stereotype applies. And I mean, to some extent it does. It seems like the suspension on their vehicles still might not be as well, but the Jeep proves that it as well is good. But the Jeep proves that it is. The Jeep was very nice to drive. So the Jeep does beat the Jag, coming in 5th place compared to the Jag's 6th. And next, again, we're comparing the 2 Range Rovers. These don't have times that are right next to each other, just like in the Drag, but I did want to compare them. And the newer one definitely has stiffer suspension, and because it was light, when combined with the stiffer suspension, it didn't roll as much, and so it transferred its weight throughout the corners much better. So that was good. Yeah, you see a lot more body roll in the older one. And again, this corner right here was just, it was really hard to figure out the correct braking point, as you see in the top Range Rover. It was just hard to know when exactly to brake. And then on the bottom there, I got a little bit of a scrape against that. But I mean, they're SUVs, it's fine. So the newer one, of course, does come in first by about, well, a little under a second. And so finally we've got the BMW and the Bentley again. I don't want to spoil my own video, but the BMW is not faster than the newer Land Rover. I think it's the same as the Drag. But the Bentley, I think it must just be that power. It's just so quick in a straight line. As you can see, the Bentley, though, it's getting sideways there, which isn't good. It's partly my fault, of course. And of course, these are not the fastest times you're going to see on these tracks, but as long as it's, you know, I'm driving them all and it's consistent lap times that I'm putting down, it's a good comparison. So as you can see, the Bentley is quite a ways ahead. BMW getting a bit sideways there. Bentley, of course, crosses the line, coming in first, and the BMW in third. So finally, we're doing Gum Forest at Blizzard Mountain. Since these are off-road vehicles, what's better situation than one with no traction? But, and this race, if in the series, in the future videos of this series, this race will be different tracks. Like if it's supercars, I might take them to Thrilltopia. Or if it's a, I don't know, a Miata or something, testing all the different Miatas, I'd take them to a very curvy circuit. Or rally cars would be in the dirt, obviously. Stuff like that. Since these were SUVs, I thought I'd take them on a cross-country circuit. And notice the Jag and the Cadillac are duking it out again for the last couple places. And it was just really hard to put down a quick time on these races, on this track. So I think this might actually be a better comparison of how easy they are to drive. I did do like 10 or 20 laps per car, but I mean, they're just in such a different order from the others. It might just be how easy they are to drive. Like you see there's the Bentley coming up on the bottom, and it's just really surprising to see it this far down the list. Snow. It just can't go around corners. It's too heavy. It wants to keep going in a straight line. You might not have noticed this, the sound is actually coming from one video at a time, and a little icon up in the top right of the screen, the top right of the Bentley screen now indicates which vehicle it's coming from. Running out of things to say. There's the Bentley getting quite a bit sideways back there. The Bentley does beat the Jeep. And all these times are actually really close. I think all of them are within 2 seconds. And next up, we're comparing the two Range Rovers. I believe the Bentley does slide in between them, but so the Bentley actually would be in, geez, can I count? I think that would be 4th place. The newer one is actually, I mean, it was more difficult to drive. It might have been the extra power or the stiffer suspension. Yeah, you see the landing there is not near as smooth. Yeah, look at the landing there. The older one absorbs it much better, and just absorbs the bumps in general much better. And surprisingly, the older one, I mean, maybe not so surprisingly considering the suspension travel, but it comes in before the Bentley and the the newer Land Rover, coming in 3rd. And finally, we have an odd one up in the top 2. The the Mercedes has been in what, 3rd from the bottom and 2nd from the bottom on the other test, on the other races, but now we see it in top 2. I honestly have no explanation for that. Maybe it has good suspension trap. I just really don't know. Maybe, yeah. I mean, the lap doesn't look any quicker than the others. It looks just like a lap. Oh, that corner didn't even look all that good. The BMW is odd to be up here this far, because in real life, it's pretty terrible off-road, especially the M Edition, and it actually comes in 1st, as you saw. So that's a bit odd. So yeah, we saw mostly between the drag and the figure 8, they got the same times, except the Jag with its stiffer suspension moved up for the figure 8 compared to the drag. And in the Gum Forest, in Gum Forest, we saw a lot of variation. It was, like I said, it might just be a comparison of how easy they are to just pick up and drive off-road. But it is really interesting. They're only 2 seconds apart. Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't noticed, the RSX has been featured in these videos, and that's just because I drive one, and I really love it. So I thought it'd be cool to feature it, and you'll be seeing different new pictures of it every time I release this video or other videos. Again, thanks for watching. My #1 goal is to provide enjoyment to you, the viewer, so I just hope I was able to do that. Thanks. I nearly forgot to mention, next month there will be an update to this video when the Porsche Macan Turbo comes out. It's coming out in Forzathon on the 2nd, I believe, so that video should be out early next month. And I look forward to see where it falls in these 3 races.